What is good, YouTube? Welcome back to the Martial Consulting channel. My name is Emil Ross, and in this video, I'm going to explain to you how you can actually build a six-figure dojo or a multiple six-figure dojo. It's not gonna be one of those woo-wah videos where I'm gonna, God knows, just tell you to be disciplined or whatsoever. Obviously, that stuff is also important. I'm actually gonna try to give you some technical advice. For full transparency, I don't even have like a specific script. I don't even know yet myself what I want to talk about specifically in this video. I mean, it may sound completely unprofessional. Truthfully, it probably is as well. But I think I have a good understanding by now on how dojo owners actually get to seven figures. Like when I speak with them, it's often like there's kind of a clear difference between people who are at 10K per month already, or who are even further beyond, or who are basically at six figures, and those who kind of want to get there, but I don't want to say they seem lost, but it's just like you kind of know that it's gonna take them a fuck ton of time to get there. So without further ado, let's straight up dive into things. First of all, obviously there's like the mindset part and the discipline part, and I've just taught you a second ago that I'm not gonna talk about this, but real quick, that's literally probably like even the most important thing that you need when you want to get to six figures. Sorry, because well, when you start your school, you are basically your school. Like how much your work is going to correlate pretty much how much money you're going to make with your school, at least in the early stages. Now later on, this obviously not that true anymore, but at least when you're starting, it's just if you're not disciplined and if you can't even do focus on working on your school or like, then you're just not gonna end up anywhere, right? Like it's just the basic truth here. If you can't even go to bed on time every day and like stop yourself from, I don't know, cheating on your diet, watching Netflix and all of that, then maybe running a school is not the thing for you, right? But I mean, that's pretty obvious stuff, right? So let's actually get into some more strategic lessons here. Now, if you want to get to six figures, it's basically pretty simple. The only thing you have to do is that you have to get new students and that you have to keep existing students. If you can master those two things, you'll be at six figures sooner or later, right? Those are basically the only things you can focus on. Obviously, there's a point for hiring people that you should focus on this as well. But I would say this is becoming more important when you're actually at like six figures already, when you want to get to like multiple six figures, seven figures, whatsoever. But if you only want to get to like six figures, I would say just focus on keeping your students and getting new students. Sure, you could hire like maybe an additional instructor or like a receptionist to help you with things. But generally speaking, if you haven't, like, let's say you want to hire a receptionist, right? If you haven't mastered yourself yet, the art of following up with leads, for example, right? And you want to hire a receptionist who does it for you, or of kind of keeping track of all of the memberships, right? If you can't do all of that yourself yet, then don't hire someone for it. It might sound extreme, but literally figure it all out yourself first and figure out, all right, how do I follow up with leads? How do I do everything? How do I do all of the tasks that a receptionist would do before I hire them? Because let's say the receptionist, for some, for God's sake, hopefully this doesn't happen, but for some reason they miraculously end up in the hospital, or they're sick, or whatsoever, like they're just out for, let's say, like a few weeks, right? And you've hired that receptionist now, but you don't know yourself how to do the task. Well, if they're gone, like you're basically fucked, because you're then gonna have to do the task yourself, but you don't know how to do it, right? So it's kind of like, rather actually perfectionize it yourself first, and like, because when they then fall off, sure, it's still more work for you, but you've done it beforehand all the time, so you basically know it already how to do this. Plus, let's say they have a question, right? Like, let's say they're on the phone with a prospect and they get a certain objection, right? And then they come to you and they ask you, hey, well, how should I handle this objection? We haven't talked about this. If you haven't done like hundreds, if not thousands, of lead follow-up calls beforehand for your school yourself, you're not going to be able to answer that question. You're going to be stuck there yourself, and you might have to figure it out yourself first of all. But on the other, if you did all of those calls in the past already, then basically you're gonna answer that question like with a blink of an eye, so to speak, right? So you're not gonna have to worry about that. So don't really worry about hiring unless you're actually really good at the thing that you want to hire someone for. Same goes for hiring instructors or for anything else. Now that we have that out of the way, let's actually talk about keeping students and getting new students. Because at this point, you probably know this already. It's super, super simple, but you still can't figure out how to do this. Well, let's talk about keeping students. Um, I would even argue keeping students is more important than getting new students because I mean, sure, if you're at 0 students, this doesn't really apply. But let's say you have like 20 or something between like 20 to 100 students already, um, then let's ask, you have to ask yourself kind of the question. And again, this is something that Alex Hormozy came up with. It's not my idea. What would I do if I couldn't advertise anymore? Like, there's basically no other way for me to get new students uh, unless I use my existing students, right? Um, how would you do it? And it's kind of like, okay, so you can't get new students through like Facebook ads whatsoever anymore. So what are you gonna do with your existing students to get new students? Well, the answer is pretty simple. You're just gonna provide them with such good classes with like such a phenomenal dojo that they don't even have another option than to bring their friends, their family members inside of your school, right? So that's basically the number one thing I would say you have to focus on. Like, unless you're at 0 students, maybe when you have 5 students or 10 students, this doesn't really apply, obviously, right? But if you're at like again at like 20 to 100 students, just ask yourself that question: what would I do to get new students if I couldn't advertise or do anything else anymore to get new students besides using my existing students? And it's just like, okay, I would change this in my dojo, this in my dojo, this in my dojo, and then just change it. Obviously, don't be a procrastinator on it. Don't be like, okay, I would change the color of my wall because then they would like my school more. Then be like, maybe I should also focus on doing advertisements at some point and like on getting new students through other methods. But generally speaking, just provide them with the best classes possible and like maybe build like a referral program as well, kind of like, all right, when like bring a friend days, although this is like pretty easy and simple stuff. I would rather say like, I don't know, gamify it. So build like a referral system where you gamify it. So basically whoever can get the most students to join within the next 3 days within the next 3 months, sorry, gets like a free uniform, gets like a month free, gets whatever. Like, you can get really, really, really creative with this stuff, right? And then maybe have like a leaderboard out there every week where there are like the top students are on top, or for God's sake, mention it every single class that there's still this game going on with who can bring the most students in the next 3 months, right? And it's just gonna be like a quick bonus on bringing people in, right? And obviously, your students are going to be more motivated to bring students into the school. If you're doing this for kids classes, obviously let the parents know about this, not only the kids. But other than that, when it comes to keeping students, the most important thing is just um, provide them with the best classes possible. I have clients all the time who tell me like, yeah, I kind of struggle with keeping students. It's they do like the dojo, but it's just that like something else comes in the way. For example, money, right? Obviously, if they do move towns, then that's a story for another day. Mm, well, if it's for example money and they want to cancel their membership or at least pause it, it's kind of like, yeah, but if you would have really, if they would really think that you're the best martial arts school out there, and if they're really how would you say it, if they're really confident in you and in your school, so to speak, right? If they really enjoy your school and your classes and all of that, would they then really pause their membership, or would they ask themselves twice if they should maybe rather pause their Netflix subscription, or like if they would maybe basically save money in some other areas of their life so they can stay at your school, right? um and if they don't do this, and if they rather cancel their membership with your school, then ask yourself, cool, they might not say that it's because of myself or because of the school itself, but and if they, it super often is. Obviously, again, there are cases where it's genuinely like a good reason for why they quit, but for the most part, then at least ask yourself twice, like, or maybe even 3 or 4 times. did I really do my best to keep the student? Did I really provide them with the best classes possible and all of that? Like, that's basically something that you always have to keep in the back of your mind. Anyways, let's talk about getting new students. Again, I've already talked about this kind of when we talk about keeping students. Just to recap, keeping students is super simple. You just have to focus on providing them with the best class possible.